Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Coworking Values podcast. And in this episode, Bernie and Tash share about this week's first Friday call about events across the European coworking family and lots of other stuff. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Cobot, a leading management software for co-working spaces, offices, hubs, and flexible workspaces around the world. You know, one of the best things about Cobot is that it's produced by people who used to manage a co-working space and know the ins and outs of the main problems and issues that are bugging co-working managers. So if you want more time for your coworkers and community, check out Cobot at cobot.me and take your co-working management to the next level.
Good morning, folks, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today in the luxury co-working assembly studio, I have my colleague and partner in crime, Tash. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too. I hate when people start podcasts like that, but it's kind of a way into the conversation. So what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about lots of different things, actually. We're going to talk about the I.D.E.A project. We're going to talk about First Friday Call. We're going to talk about everything that's going on with the assembly right now. Loads of things.
It's so exciting. So the First Friday Call, ladies and gentlemen, is when we every Friday the co-working assembly crew have a kind of stand-up, catch-up call about what's going on in our work we do. And then on the first Friday of every month, we open that call up and invite people from around Europe who are running events and projects and stuff like that to come and share, ask for help, tell people what's going on. And this one is all about events. And events has kind of changed dramatically in the last 12 months, is it? Yeah. And there's a lot of co-working events that were in person. They've all gone online, which means that the opportunity to reach more people and have a dramatically more diverse panel has become huge. So we're going to invite you to join that call. The link will be in the show notes. So if you just Google co-working assembly First Friday Call, it will come up to the page on our website somewhere. But this is definitely an invitation to come and join. We're not like some cool elite group. You don't have to have like a £1 million net worth to come to the call, whether you're at university, working in a co-working space, starting a freelance project, working in a maker space, co-working space, collaborative workspace, whatever you define it in your local area, show up to that. And if you'd like to get involved in a project, it's somewhere else to come to. Anything more I can add to that?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I just think it's a really great way for people to connect as well. And quite often, especially right now, with the state of things, is those ideas are often stuck in your own head and you've got no one to bounce ideas off of. And if you've got something that's whirling around in there and you're not quite sure of its success rate, of whether it is worth putting that idea forward, then the First Friday Call is the perfect place to test pilot it.
That's a really good point. And also we know we always meet a lot of people doing nearly the same thing. So one of the best things you can get out of the assembly is us connecting you with people that will help you further your project, so you don't have to, as we say, reinvent the wheel. One of the things we mentioned was the I.D.E.A project, Tash, which I'm wildly enthusiastic about. So tell us about that.
So the I.D.E.A project, I.D.E.A standing for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity and Accessibility. So it's a diversity and inclusion initiative, is actually a global project. So the idea of the I.D.E.A project, and the pun is intended, is to put out monthly challenges for co-working space owners and users to help implement diversity and inclusion within those spaces. So we actually will be launching the first project this week. Yes, it will go live on Wednesday, 3rd of February. And the idea is that you will have the project, you'll go to the website, you can read the challenge and start working on the challenge. And at the end of every month, we'll come together and we'll have a call where we can discuss what came up, ideas, and everyone can kind of see where they are with that challenge. And this will continue throughout the month. There'll be a theme to obviously the months throughout the year as well, depending on what's going on in the globe. But it's a really great way way to connect with other people who are passionate about diversity and inclusion, but it's also another way to kind of get a head start. It can be a really daunting topic, and I think a lot of people are scared of it because they're scared to get things wrong. So it's really good to build up a network of people that you can connect with and communicate ideas with, but also to get those kind of challenges to help you make those first steps.
Yeah, there's including me, there's lots of people who would know they need to do something and are not quite sure how to do it. And we're not all PricewaterhouseCoopers or Coca-Cola with 17 people running around the building employed to do that. So how to actually implement, I hate to use that word,
Yeah.
just be more inclusive, grow when you say to people like, oh, we need to grow a diverse workplace, like what does that mean? You kind of know what you want to do or the intentions there, but actually the practical steps in between fire alarm checks,
right,
emptying the dishwasher and everything that goes on in the building is and just keeping your co-working business alive in this precarious time is really daunting. And every time you get together at one of these events, it's another opportunity to collect with peers, people going through the same thing. In London, most of last year we did 2 calls every week, and sometimes 10 people would come and sometimes 40 people would come. But it was that little connection point of hanging out with people who do the same thing as you or are in the same shit as you is somehow weirdly reassuring.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I wrote that down and everything. So talking of getting together in London, we had our what do we call it? How to make a vibrant co-working space with a local authority. And I was just hoping that would go better, Tash. I mean, what do you think went wrong?
It was such a great event. I mean, I'm not just tooting my own trumpet. I was hosting, but it wasn't outside of me being there. It was also an amazing event. It was really inspiring for the fact that we actually had local London authorities present, which meant that the people in the room, those co-working space owners, had the opportunity to ask their questions directly to the source. So yeah, it was a really, really powerful event. And I think a lot of people got questions answered, but I also think a lot of the authorities that were present really started to hear and learn some of the issues and the challenges that co-working spaces are having. And I think it really informed their strategies going forward.
It did. I was, I hate to use the word inspired. I was so inspired. I was really inspired by the enthusiasm. There were 8 local authorities on the call. And how curious and interested they were in making this work. And if you know London, there's six zones. It's like Central London, which is the one you see on Hugh Grant films all the time. And then there's 2 and 3, which is kind of quite a lot of stuff happens. There's clubs and bars and a lot of co-working spaces. But then when you get to, would you call them suburbs? Like
not even. I live in zone 3, but I think 3, 4, 5 and 6, they're still part of the London postcode technically, because I would say a suburb would be like Hertfordshire and that kind of thing. But they sit in this weird no man's land, I think, in terms of when we talk about London as a city. So I think it's quite challenging when you're in those spaces that you don't always get the attention of being a zone 1 co-working space. I think it seems to be the general consensus.
That's one of the things I love, because like in I think it's like 7,000 people live in the city of London, which is like the Barbican, Liverpool Street area, and there's hundreds and hundreds of co-working spaces. I'm reluctant to like put a figure on it. On the call, I think it was Dan from Islington said there's 457. It was a very specific number. Places that identify as co-working spaces in London, and I know hundreds of those must be in zone 1. But then when you get out, like in Redbridge, which is zone 4 where we live, I found 3 co-working spaces, and I'm in Workhive now, which is 1. And there's 400,000 odd people that live here. So there's a huge opportunity for not just economically, like for people to like stay in their community, stay in their borough, that whole 15-minute city thing we shout about all the time, or I shout about all the time. And we'll put a link in the show notes to Town Square's What If We Could All Walk to Work report, which says that much more elegantly about how you can build a co-working space in your local area. What was the other thing we need to talk about? There's one more thing. Co-working symposium. Were you around for the co-working symposium last time?
I don't think I was, actually.
Oh, you missed a corker.
I did miss it out.
So that is co-working symposium is run by our friend Marco, who is I'm stalling there because he's a doctor. He's Dr. Marco Oriol from the Prague University, which makes him sound very sophisticated.
Very sophisticated.
And he's heading up this think tank, which is about the future of work in a post-corona world, which sounds dramatic, but it is very, very, very interesting. And he, for this year's symposium, he's got together a nearly all-female panel of academics from Melbourne, UK, Berlin, Prague, Russia, and Japan, who are studying, and even before the pandemic, were studying the future of work and co-working and how it fits the local area and all this type of stuff. So that is coming, I think it's the 16th of April, but we'll put a link in the show notes. It's a free to come to event. And it's a very high level conversation, but it's also like quite granular about, you will hear this, these people reported on this co-working space and found out how it connected with the local area and what the impact was and all this type of stuff. And this is the trends we will see going forward. And what I'm always keen to say is a lot of real estate companies publish reports about the future of work, which are probably economically accurate, but they're by people who are heavily invested in their offices staying alive, which are closing at an alarming rate now. Whereas these academic people probably contribute to some of those reports, but they're like a bit more impartial. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yes, definitely.
So we will put a link on our events page to that. And if you go to coworkingsymposium.com, you'll find it there. And there's a link in the show notes. And then what else have we got coming up?
Well, I was just jumping back. I should actually mention that the London Local Authority conversation that we had will actually be happening every month. I think we've got to mention that you will be able to join one of those discussions every single month. We have lots more coming up based on the topics actually that come out of each discussion. So that's the amazing thing about those conversations, is that they are definitely audience led. It's not us just sitting around thinking, what should we talk about? I don't know. Is this really what people want to discuss? They were definitely topics that came out of the conversation that we had last week. So yes, I would definitely say make sure that you find a space in your diary to join that conversation every single month.
And you can sign up for our newsletter, folks, if you go to the front page of coworkingassembly.eu. And every week we send links to the blogs and content we produce. We send links to the stories about what's going on. And it's not a huge, great advert with sponsored posts in. It's like stuff, as Tash just said, it's stuff being organized by people, doing the real work every day and who are part of this very, very long-standing community. And that includes all the other groups around Europe, like in Spain and Germany and Italy and Serbia, who run co-working communities in their country. So one other thing we have, if you go to the London Assembly, we're running they're not co-working events, but they're events for freelancers, independent and gig economy people every month, and that's on our event page. And then the last thing is we're putting together the first of our monthly events around the European Freelancers Week. So, a lot of the stuff we talked about in this podcast is directed for people who are in the co-working industry, right, work as community managers or operators or own a space, or just interested in the co-working industry. The European Freelancers Week, even though we're going to do it every month, is for people who, I often get this thing where I say freelancers and that has a different connotation in different countries. So, it's people who work independently, are like Tash, or, performers and presenters who, I'm running out of ideas here.
No, it's anybody. And I think the association is it's people like graphic designers and coders. That's what everyone thinks of as a freelancer quite often, I think globally. But actually, freelancer, like you say, it can be creative freelancers, anybody who's not employed directly to a company and on PAYE would be classed as a freelancer. And that could mean that you're a consultant. It can be a variety of different industries. And I think that we sometimes lose that when we talk about freelancer. So
Exactly.
EF Week is open to anybody who classes themselves as an independent worker, I would say.
I like the term independent economic agent.
There you go. I like that.
I love that, but that might be a bit of a jumped up term for some people. So I need to. I've got my car on double yellow lines outside my co-working space here, so I need to run. Is there anything else we need to do?
No, I think that's everything.
Where can we find you online, Tash?
You can find me on Instagram, tasht.uk. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Tash Thomas. That's my official name. Hit me up on either one.
And my official name is Bernie J. Mitchell IV, Esquire. My gambling father relinquished my estate in a poker game in Lisbon in 1956, but I'm still here. If you Google Bernie J. Mitchell, you'll find me on LinkedIn, and you'll also find an incredibly embarrassing video of me shouting an introduction on YouTube to a speaker in 2011. But really appreciate your time and attention. Jump over to our website, hit reply to the email. We'd love to be in touch, and we hope to see you all on the first Friday call. Be careful. It is a jungle out there.